morning show, December the 6th, and going straight into the headlines, the UK headlines mostly, the deadline, which seems to be one which is something made up really, but we can gloss over that. It's I'm going to go on and on, I would have thought. The other headline of the day, brought to us by Sky News, about a foiled MI6 foiling a suicide plot. It seems to be there to counteract the news yesterday about MI5 allowing or not being quite on the ball in terms of the other successful plots that were earlier this year. So a bit of spin there in the political arena. And then news from yesterday, which I thought was worth mentioning, just about Glaxo and other drug makers betting on on life sciences area. I suppose if you're slightly cynical, you might regard that as a bit of a top in the market. But as far as where the markets actually are today, you can see that the indices on the back foot, a sort of situation of being rather better to travel than arrive on the Trump tax cuts issue. And then on the other markets, I suppose the highlight there really slightly stronger dollar against the pound. And weaker dollar yen. Obviously, the highlight for Russell Jones and myself, given that we are Bitcoin crazy, is another 5% rise in Bitcoin overnight, something which Russell, I think, was flagging on Twitter overnight, so I'm sure he slept well with the extra gain that we see there. The only slight note of caution there is where Ethereum is off a little bit today, but I'm sure it'll make up for that over the next few days and weeks. As far as where the intraday moves are at the moment, I think we'll start off with the pound. I was looking for the support to come in towards, I suppose, 133.80, 134 yesterday, and that's roughly what happened. I actually thought it would be a little bit weaker than that, but at least the charting side of things panned out well there. On the euro, we've got a situation where support there towards the 118 area, 118 level, just toying with today's pivot level around 118.33, but remarkably quiet, I think, at the moment, perhaps sidelined by the shenanigans regarding sterling. And then on to dollar yen. We can see here that basically the weakness that we've had overnight, well, basically started around midnight, fading at the pivot, and then heading lower towards the 112 zone. You can see that's we've got support, third level support, 111.80, and one would presume that that will be difficult to break today, as that is normally a feature which is difficult to break on any day. A reliable, extreme support area for day traders. As far as the indices are concerned, the pattern here for the DAX, if I can get the current area, a little bit of a gap down there on the open. Below first support, at the worst, around the 12,940 area currently. That gap there up towards the 12,980 area. Perhaps we will fill that before we go down again. And just going on to gold, worth a mention, probing quite painfully low now, down towards 1260 late yesterday. See if we find resistance around the pivot level of the day, which is around 1268 so far, but just hanging around that zone as I speak. But we have Russell Jones, I hope, waiting in the wings. How are you today, Russell?
Good morning, Zach. Yeah, I am a little bit tired, but I did have the intention of hopefully watching a victorious. It's the first time I've tweeted as a Welshman, "Come on, England!" But dismal as England's performance was, obviously I wasted a complete night's sleep, and I just watched Twitter as England collapsed in the second test in the Ashes. So obviously, for anyone else who was watching it, I'm sure they saw that dismal performance. In terms of stocks, Zach is absolutely right. I think I'd be very concerned to actually open up any fresh positions on stocks at the moment, if I'm honest with you, because you've got no momentum at all in America. Although this tax has been approved, 2 days running, you've had retraction in the market as you progress throughout the day, and there's concerns. Obviously, the Dow finished down yesterday, 109 points, but the Nasdaq was down, and so was the S&P. And although in the FT today, towards the back page on page 25, they say Wall Street's on course for a record close as US tech stocks rebound. Well, that didn't actually happen. They didn't rebound with any kind of vigor compared to the previous day.
Fake news from the FT.
It's the FT. It's page 25. Page 25. But you have yesterday Microsoft up marginally, and Facebook and Amazon, but Apple, Netflix were flat. Tencent was down. JD.com slightly up. Really, there wasn't any improvement. Hence, the Nasdaq was down still overall. So it has to be risk off. It has to be, because I don't see any momentum in the US market, which obviously impacts everything. And a larger concern probably is the sell-off of industrial metals. Copper is significantly down. If you were to, I don't know if you can look at copper, Zach, and look at it over a 2 months chart, 3 months chart.
I'll have a go.
We could have, copper is the catalyst to virtually all the miners. And whereas, just over a year ago, you had copper around 200 a pound, dollars a pound, and then it went up over 320 a pound, but it's down under 300 again. So copper has been falling of late. Zinc has fallen overnight. The miners sold off overnight in Australia. So I think it's a bit of a risk off. In terms of positives on the market yesterday, the supermarkets, driven by what they believe a stronger pound, so improving margin pressure, so giving them a better margin. So obviously, at the moment, the supermarkets, not just because of Aldi and Lidl, have been absorbing the margin cost within their sales, and they've done pretty well to not grow profits really, but to stand still considering the cost of imports. But with the pound at 133.9, well 134.1 as we stand, down 0.1% on this morning. It depends if that's going to last. If you consider the absolute mess we're in with Brexit negotiations, again, I think the call by Goldman's yesterday, where they upgraded Tesco's, which saw a 3% rise. They didn't change the status on Sainsbury's, but they just went with the sector, so it's still a sell, but 2.8% up on the day. Morrison's was moved from a sell to a hold, and went up 2.2%. So the supermarkets did very, very well there. Standard Chartered did well yesterday. Again, that was because JP Morgan did a 3%, did from neutral to overweight, and they went up 3% on the day. Providence took a massive hit yesterday. When I sped read it in the morning, I thought it was around the Vanquish card, but I missed it. It's not. It's around. It's around the car loan book now. So it's raised further concerns around Vanquish. So Providence dropped by 10.2%. And I have to share a personal story, because I was very fortunate that on Monday, Providence was one of my largest positions, and I sold out of it to put more money into Bitcoin. So what a double win for me personally. But I still see Providence as a recovery stock. But when you see the sector has been totally marked down due to the high debt levels in the UK, it's one to probably put on a watch if you can. We mentioned two stocks yesterday, which was Blue Star Capital. Well, the day before, we followed them up yesterday, but Blue Star Capital, BLU, and we did recommend these because they have some indirect affiliation with Bitcoin, and that went up 25.3% yesterday on the day. Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to go down today, but I've not sold my holding in that company. The other one, MSG, which is Milestone Group, that went up 34.2% on the day. Again, you'd very rarely see a stock gain of that amount, and obviously the momentum is lost overnight. So I personally think you might want to look into those two. And the other one, Bella, Zach, which obviously had a 10% increase, not yesterday, went back slightly yesterday, about 3.9%. However, it's had 2 days of subsequent gains previously. I mentioned the miners, they were all down yesterday. I'm not going to go through them individually, but that's because of copper. It's because of, obviously, concerns. Although you had Australia doing another quarter of growth, over 100 quarters consecutively now, by exporting to China, there are concerns, obviously, over the long-term kind of growth aspect. Because I think we've got to a top. Two stocks this morning which have had finals out. One is the brokerage firm, small brokerage firm, Numis, but Numis is in direct competition to the likes of Panama Gordon. They're up prior to today 32.37%. They've got a capital of 324 million. They've been gradually growing and growing. Admittedly, it's only a small company, but considering where the city's mergers and acquisitions have dried up over recent years, not so many, they had revenue increase of 16% this morning, profit up 18%. Dividend is unchanged, and they've got increased cash holdings, and the net asset value has gone up. So I'm not suggesting that's going to move dramatically, but it might be one that again to put on watch. And the other one, which was RWS, and a lot of you may not be aware of this company, but it's up 43% for the year, which is very, very strong. The final results came out at 34.4% increase on revenue, and profits up 35.6%, driven predominantly by a margin increase of 96 bps. That's it on stocks. I'm just going to finish. I don't want to drone on every day about Bitcoin, but the two trackers which I've gone into for safety measures, one, which is the one in the euro yesterday, went up 2.99%, and the other one, which is in the krona, went up by 4%, 4.06. But if you look at Bitcoin as we stand, it broke records again overnight, and although they put in news updates out that it went through 12,200, at 7:04 this morning, you couldn't buy Bitcoin for less than 12,515. Now, obviously, that won't be the price that will be quoted because of if that's the higher spread, and they quote the sell figure. But the momentum on Bitcoin is not stopping, and I can't see it stopping prior to the weekend. And then on Sunday, I'm not sure what's going to happen when CBOE offers shorting facility and the big institutions can come in. It could actually stabilize it with less volatility. I can't see many people shorting it unless they're going to do it to protect their gains. But I'm completely wrong. On Friday, I might reduce my position, watch it over the weekend until Monday, and then decide how heavy I go back in. But that's an update, Zach. I don't think there are any questions about what I've commented about, or any comments yourself.
No, I think the only thing there is just, the weakness in the equity markets. Let's say we normally would have some weakness early December, and then we'd have the cheer coming in from the 15th or so. So I would take the weakness that we have in the markets with a pinch of salt. And obviously, historically, the second half of December is the best part of the year, or the easiest time of the year to be long. So I think we should be looking for opportunities, perhaps, from the end of next week onwards.
I still think that switch from tech to consumer is starting to switch more in America, though. So
okay.
It's one to keep an eye on.
Okay, well, thank you, Russell. We'll speak to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, hopefully next up we have Mr. John Adamson from Share Talk.
Morning, Zach. How are you doing? I'm
doing very well, John. Have you got any delights from the small cap arena today?
Just about, yeah. I did struggle a little bit this morning, actually. There's not a lot out there that's particularly interesting, I've got to say. But I think I wouldn't normally go back to a stock that we've covered so recently already, but I will do because it's the only one that's really making me excited today. So Prospects, oil and gas, PXOG. So last time we covered it, it was actually 0.46. It closed at 0.73 yesterday.
Even I liked it.
Even you liked it, yeah. So
I didn't say it was a short or anything else like that. So it was.
No, so market cap's about just over 7 million at the moment. So they're on a drilling program at the moment, and basically today they've just announced by RNS this morning that they've got their log testing results back from their Italy play. So the Italy play is widely at Padea. This is part of the Po Valley consortium works. This is widely considered to be the most prospective play of the lot. So they're doing some drills in Romania as well at the moment, but Italy is considered to be the most highly prospective. So the log results are basically saying that there's gas there, and now the next stage is the flow testing. So as we've seen with other oil and gas companies, when they get to this stage, this kind of result today that they've announced can give a bit of a boost to a share price. But I think in Prospects' case, because of the sort of nature of where the share price has been over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, any little boost seems to give it, from what I've seen, quite a significant leg up. So I'm not saying it's going to go up 50%, whatever. It did tick up. I think when you looked at it the other day, Zach, it was up about 40%. It came back down to about 10 by the end of the day. So it does fluctuate quite wildly at the moment.
I think my view was, I think what I said before, and obviously it was easy to suggest that above 0.45, above the 200-day moving average at 0.45, you could go to 0.7 or 0.8. So we've obviously done that again. But the big win for me would be here if it be cleared 0.8, 0.9, and then you've got a momentum play with a massive base there since the beginning of the year, and you would hope that you would have a move really to be the opposite of what we had on the way down. So that's what tends to happen. So like a big U would be at the end of be there on the end of the chart by the end of this year. So hopefully we break 0.8, 0.9, and then just goes there's a penny of upside, something like that.
Yeah, I mean the key thing to note from today's news is yes, they found some gas, but how much is there? They don't know at the moment till they do the flow tests. So, and will it be commercial and all the rest of it? So there's still a bit more news to come here. This is just really the start of what we'll see. Will be a number of RNSs around that particular play. But of course, there's other drilling going on other prospects as well. So there's multiple news fronts ahead really for Prospects. So definitely one to watch, but also not a bad entry point either.
Okay, well we'll keep an eye on that. The Twitterati are crazy about PXOG, so presumably they're already.
Some of them are, yeah, you're right. They are, but I think interest will grow.
Okay, is that your lot for the day?
That is my lot for today, Zach. Well, I was gonna potentially cover UCOG, but there's UCOG's been in free fall.
If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just really to sort of signify where it's at, really. So, I mean, they're at they're at a stage now where they're utilising loans to keep their heads above water, and they've just acquired a further 10% of one of the licenses that they already hold. So the stock's been in free fall of late. It's been quite interesting to see a lot of retail PIs actually shorting the stock, which is something you don't see unless retail are particularly convinced that the stock's overvalued. It's not something I've I've probably come in the last 18 months. I've maybe come across it once or twice. So some of those shorts appear to be closing. So will we see the price go back up? I'm not really convinced, to be honest, at the moment, especially while they're converting loan cash into shares. So obviously that's further dilution. But the cash is basically keeping them doing the flow testing at Broadford Bridge throughout the period of that project. So if those results come out trumps, we'll see a hugely significant boost to the share price. But they've already said that program is going to take a couple of months, so maybe into January before we get the results back. But yeah, it's from where it was in the summer, hitting dizzy heights of 10p. I think it was down to about 3.5 yesterday. It's been in free fall for a couple of months now, so.
Okay, we'll see how that goes, John.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you very much. We've got a bit of a time issue today, so let's there's two decent small cap situations to look at, and we'll hopefully see how they progress over the course of the morning. Thank you very much, John Adamson from Share Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Zach, I think we're going to cross to our special guest today, Alex Ong.
Okay.
Bring him in, and then we'll round off with Ian Foster, who's already in the room, which is great. So, good morning, Alex. I'll unmute the mic, and we should be able to hear you.
Hey, Simon. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm wonderful, thank you, and thank you for having me this morning.
Great, Zach, you should be able to still speak as well. Alex, we'll jump over to your screen if that's okay, so that we can see what you're trading.
Absolutely. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah, thank you. We're looking at the EuroCAD.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's get rid of this moment here. Okay, so last week or the week before when I was on, we spoke about the Aussie trades. I don't know if you remember. We were saying that they were at a big structural level, and we were looking at some sort of a bounce, which is what we ended up getting. However, moving on 2 weeks, and now it looks like that bounce is over, and I'm looking at the Aussies for potential shorts. Some of the ones that I like in particular, I like the Aussie CAD with the Canadian news, unemployment news that came out last week, obviously being way more positive than the market had expected, has given some strength there. And I know that we've got the Bank of Canada rate decision today. I think interest rates won't be any surprise, but obviously looking at the statements, see how they're interpreting all of the numbers. So I quite like the look of this for a short going forward. I don't really want to be selling until we get below the support at 0.9614. But once the market closes beneath there, I'll definitely be piling in there on the short side. The Aussie franc is something, well, all of the Aussie pairs, I like the idea of shorting, but this one not so much as the others because it needs to come down a little bit and break beneath this support level. And I think that by the time it gets down to this level, a lot of the Aussie move will have already been, will have already happened. So I'll probably stick with the Aussie CAD from that perspective. Aussie Yen is a similar situation, although we have broken beneath the trend line, which is nice. We're holding beneath the trend line, and now I'm looking at the support at 8,460 in order to start initiating my shorts. The Aussie New Zealand gave us a lovely bounce after we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Now that is coming down here. The way that I like to play these types of plays is if we've got a lot of momentum. So as you can see, there's a lot of selling momentum going into this support level here. I'm not the biggest fan of selling as soon as we get on sort of like the initial break when you have this amount of momentum. I'd much prefer the market to come down to the support level and kind of just play with it a little bit. Just show us that it's the price is respecting that level. And once it's shown it a little bit of respect, then breaking beneath the level would be the favored move for me. Finally, with the Australian dollar, we are holding beneath the structural level that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We didn't quite get the bounce there, but it has sort of been going sideways. It hasn't sold through the floor yet. but I think that it really is only a matter of time. If you take a look at some of these candles here, you had quite some momentum, but all of the momentum to the upside has always been sold into. And I think that's very, very telling. So if we can get beneath this trend line here, I think the market opens up and we start heading towards a sort of like the 0.7368 level. And then obviously to round it off, I talked about the Canadian dollar. I really do like the idea of shorting some of these pairs. So looking for strength there, and that's not the right charts. I'll finish it off by talking about the dollar CAD, which, as we can see here, it started rallying. It broke above structure level. From a technical perspective, when it does this, and I'll zoom into this chart here, you expect there to be a great deal of momentum to the upside. Okay, so once it breaks a structural level, we expect, if there is real strength there, we expect the market to follow through with it. It hasn't done that. And then on Friday, when we had all of the employment numbers come out, we can see that we had this massive bearish candle here. Now, it's no surprise to me that over the first couple of days of this week, the market has gone sideways because it has come back to this level of support here. But I think that as long as the market can hold beneath this trend line and break the support level, I think that we definitely see 124. And I think it's very, very likely we then go towards the lows at 121. So that's what I'm looking at in the FX markets. Let's hope that these ideas pay us as well as the ideas did a couple of weeks ago.
I hope they do, Alex. Thank you very much indeed. Very comprehensive there. Hopefully now we're going on to. These are testing markets, so even at the best of the times, you need to put full effort in, and hopefully that's what Mr. Foster is doing as well. Ian Foster, are you there?
Let me go across to Ian. Sorry, I'm sleeping here. Zach, thank you, Alex, for that, and hopefully we'll hear from you next Thursday as well on the RTC.
Yes, looking forward to speaking to you then. Take care.
Wonderful. Have a good day. Thank you.
Morning.
There we go. My apologies. Ian, you should be able to speak now and share your screen. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. A little bit hoarse this morning, so forgive me. The first market I'm looking at, Zach, is the good old Bitcoin. And
oh yes.
Yeah, I picked out a lovely trade here. Obviously, it's from 13, well, 11,637, I think, to 12, wherever we are at the minute. So that's just that there. So it's a beautiful market at this minute in time. I'm sure you're getting there, even on a 15-minute chart when I took off here. So thank goodness I was long prior to this on that there. So it still looks pretty good. Getting into the indexes, just starting off with them, you can see weakness appeared into America yesterday. I was talking about, I think yesterday morning I said about the Dow America, the first bearish bar, and it achieved its weekly price action objective by taking the previous week's high out, and then it came to show weakness. And it exactly done that. And it continues to show weakness because they've marked down a further 90 points this morning. There was yesterday's price action bar, the daily bar, and again with further weakness. And from my perspective, I was short. I brought my stop down and got stopped out, and then left. I was going to Manchester yesterday evening, and lo and behold, if it didn't come back down and show a red bar, and it fell 100 points. But that's just sod's law, as you know. So if it just hadn't give this bounce and I hadn't brought my stop down as tight, I would have been quite good. In relation to the couple of the DAX also, let me just, when I'm on the DAX again, this morning again, Zach, we're showing weakness here in the DAX. That is not a true weekly bar because it actually closed at 947, and last week's low is a low of 809. So I'm expecting the DAX to go now, and it's presently trading, as you know, at 903. I reckon there is another 100 points in the DAX to the downside. There's the DAX in a 15-minute chart with the red bars. So the DAX should break the 809 level, which is last week's low, to the downside, and then that will have achieved its price action objective after having a bearish bar, which is a little bit stronger this morning. But well, it's coming off, but it was showing a little bit more strength as comparing with the blue bars here in comparison to the DAX, but it's now starting to come off. Again, on a 5-minute chart, the bars have not turned red yet, but again, I'll be looking at the FTSE for, again, shorts. And as I've already said, they have the US marked down roughly 80-90 points. Getting onto the currencies, again, look at this, leaves them very, very hard to trade, dare I say it. You've got a market there with literally, I don't think, any news there at 7.35, falling 40 pips over a 5-minute period. And yes, we're in red bars on an intraday time frame. I'm of the 15-minute intraday time frame. So, you know, how do you, the objective as far as a weekly bar is concerned is still taking this 135.49 out to the upside, but it's making very hard work. Cable is pound dollar. Again, what was quite interesting yesterday, and it's a level that I'm keeping an eye on, is this 118.08 level in the euro dollar. It went to 118.12 yesterday. Presently trading, what are we trading at this minute? 118.24. So again, real weakness in the market. I think it would need to break the 118.08, and the reason I say that, because again, we had a weekly bullish bar with the objective of it taking 119.60 out to the upside. It seems an awful far place to be in relation to where it is at this minute in time. But again, and the weaknesses in the red bars here, but it has to break. It went to 118.12 with all the weakness yesterday morning. I was quite content with my shorts, and all of a sudden, bang, it just bounced again. So it's leaving. As we all know, trading can be a hard game, but at this minute in time, as far as the pound dollar and euro dollar is concerned, the moves that it's making are very, 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 very volatile, and then no follow through, which leaves it more and more complicated. But the longer period, if you can pick your position, I think the longer time frame, certainly in cable, I'd be looking more for longs than shorts, believe it or not. I might be contradictory in what other commentators have said, but I think any moves down, it would have to break last week's low, which is quite a distance away. So that was my analysis this morning. I'm sorry that I can't be more direct. At this point in time, we only can see and trade what we see in front of us. But certainly on the longer term picture, cable, I'd be looking longs 118.08 on the euro dollar. It would have to break the downside before I'd be looking for shorts.
That's very kind and very good of you, Ian. Thank you very much indeed. We will just finish off with the stock market, UK stock market, FTSE down around 34 points. Highlights here, I would say, in terms of the volume movers, not too much, I suppose. Centrica still edging back. That was something that Russell pointed out as a recovery play. I think around £1.36. It's now £1.48. So looks as though that one worked. United Oil and Gas leading the way on the percentage movers of the day. Stock which I was been looking at for a couple of days now, and looks as though I may have missed it. Science Therapeutics recovery as well there. Taking a long rush recovery for that stock, but through the £2 level. And on the downside, just a few to mention if we can quickly before I sign off. AFC Energy and ITM Power probably leading the way down there. Surprising, I suppose, to see Hammerson and the real estate group in the losers there, and also telecommunications continuing its recent woeful run. But that is the quick stock update, and that is the end of today's morning show. Thank you very much for listening. See you and speak to you tomorrow at 8:30, 7:30 rather.